Aloha, I'm Sabrina with Begin Being, and in this video we're going to be talking about the second key to moving to the new earth reality and master manifesting. So last week I told you about the first key to master manifesting and moving into that new earth 5D reality vibration. And if you haven't watched that video, that's perfectly okay. You can watch it after this video. I've put it in the link below. In this video though, we're going to be talking about the second key to master manifesting and move into that new 5D earth reality. The second key is to be able to let go of, to release your baggage, to release your negative emotions, limiting beliefs, and limiting decisions. So first, what exactly is baggage? I'm going to be going over it from both a psychological perspective and from a Hawaiian perspective. But basically it's stuff that we've held on to from like childhood and other things, other like events in our lives. And it's basically like a bunch of negative emotions that are filtering how we are able to see and view the world. Now, the reason why it's the second step and probably one of the most important steps, one of the most important keys, is because if you are trying to manifest something, like say for example, you're wanting to manifest making more money, like getting a better job, and you want to make more money, you want to be more successful in your career. Well, here's the thing. If you have like a limiting belief, or if you have some baggage around it, like maybe being good enough, like so if you think, like if you're a person who's maybe kind of thought like your whole life, like I'm just really not smart, like I'm just not smart enough, like I'll study and then I'll do bad on tests when I was little, and so that means I'm just not smart. If you have that belief about yourself and you're trying to maybe get a new job where you need a certain level of intelligence, then what can happen is you have basically two things that are going on that are interfering with each other. So you have the want to manifest the new job, but you also have a belief that you're not smart enough for that new job. And so when you're trying to manifest, if you don't release that belief, what can happen is they end up interfering with each other and canceling your manifestation out. So it's extremely important that when we're doing this, during this second key, that we're able to release our baggage. Now, getting into what baggage is, from a psychological perspective, there is what's called the imprinting phase. And during that imprinting phase, it's usually between before the age of 7. So when you're born, before the age of 7, you're basically going through all of this programming. So your unconscious mind is kind of like a sponge at that level, at that stage. Like your brainwave patterns are just more at the unconscious level versus the conscious level. And you haven't yet developed a critical factory. So what that means is anything that adults are telling you, you simply take as fact. An adult can tell you the sun is blue, and you're going to be like, okay. And then you might be confused on the color blue, but you're going to say, if another adult asks you what color is the question, or asks you the question, what color is the sun, you're going to say blue, because you truly believe that. Now, besides being maybe messed up in your colors, and eventually you'll kind of figure that one out, there's also more of like an unconscious programming. So the colors, eventually you'll be able to figure out, hold on, something's not right here. But something like a parent saying, maybe you're having trouble learning how to tie your shoes or something, and maybe a parent or a caregiver is just like, you're just not getting it. I don't know why you're not getting it. It's so easy. You're just not getting it. Then you might develop this thought, this belief system that you're not good at getting things, which means like maybe you're not smart. So now it goes on to you can't get that new career because you don't really believe that you're good enough to be able to get that career. Like you're going to be able to understand the concepts. So this programming goes into you from parents, from your teachers, from if you go to like churches or any other social type activities, other family members that are around you a lot. Nowadays, it's huge from television and from different social media like TikTok, stuff like that for younger kids. All of those things are bombarding them with all of these things that they end up developing as beliefs. Now, from a more Hawaiian perspective, the Hawaiians believed that whenever you had something come up, like whenever you experienced, a major like negative emotion, or you experienced this, maybe like horrific event or some sort of trauma, even if it's not like a huge trauma, if you perceive it as a trauma, the Hawaiians believe that if you don't have the tools and techniques to be able to handle it at the moment, it would go into like a black bag. Like they used a metaphor of a black bag, and you would put it like in different places of your body. Now, that's actually proven and seen to be true in massage therapy. So any good massage therapist who has had, proper training with a really good reputable school, they will teach you sometimes when your client is on the table and you're giving them a massage, sometimes they might start reacting emotionally. They'll tell you stuff like they might start laughing hysterically, they might start crying, they might just get like in a really bad mood. They might be experiencing all of these emotions. And the reason why is because it turns out it's true. You really do sometimes carry different emotions in different parts of your body, and the massage therapist is able to kind of like work it out. Now, it might be working out the piece that's in your body, but it is not working out the belief. So the Hawaiians, though, from their perspective, what they would do is, and which is a little bit different than Western society, how we deal with it, is they believed, like I said, that if you didn't have the tools and techniques, it would put it somewhere in your body. Now, they would actually celebrate when your baggage came up. So, for example, if you're going about your day and you're like, maybe you're kind of having a good day or whatever kind of day, and all of a sudden you start thinking about something. You start thinking about something and all of these emotions start coming up, and all of a sudden you're feeling like really not good. Maybe you're starting to bawl, stuff like that. The Hawaiians would actually celebrate this because they would see it as your unconscious mind now has the tools and techniques to be able to handle what's going on. And so they would celebrate it. Now, I'm not saying that like as your mascara is running down your face, or as you're curled up on the floor in a little ball, that you're happy. I'm not in any way saying that, because in the moment, it sucks. However, the Hawaiians, instead of viewing it as sometimes in Western society, it's almost as if certain doctors and stuff like that, it's almost as if their thought process is, negative emotions are bad and nobody should ever have them. So instead of celebrating the fact that this negative emotion is happening, they prescribe you a pill. And they say, here, just take this and you'll feel better. So I'll give you an example of this. My dad, my uncle, my dad's brother, my uncle passed away, and my dad was having a really hard time with it because, he lost his brother, and it was his older brother. So it's somebody he's been close to and has known his entire life. So he, was having all of these negative emotions come up, and he was having all of this really deep sadness and everything like that. And what happened was he ended up going to see a psychiatrist to hey, I need some help with this. And instead of going taking him through some sort of therapy, instead of teaching him how to deal with the sadness, instead of teaching him that, hey, this sadness right now, it's okay. You're supposed to be feeling this sadness. It means you're human. So instead of taking my dad through therapy, they just gave him an antidepressant. And they were like, here, just take this, your emotions will calm down and you'll be fine. And luckily my dad told me this, and I'm like, okay, Dad, there's nothing wrong with antidepressants if you truly need antidepressants. And here's the thing, you're supposed to be sad. It's okay to be sad. You need to be feeling these emotions, because what can happen is if you don't feel those emotions, guess what? They go in the black bag and then you put them away for later. So my dad, if he was just taking the antidepressants and not dealing with his emotions, then what can happen is that basically they get suppressed. He maybe gets off the antidepressants, or maybe he's just going on about his life, and then later everything's going to come back again. So it's extremely important to be able to deal with what has happened in your life, the events that have happened in your life, and deal with the negative emotions, and deal with your limiting beliefs, and deal with your limiting decisions as well. So major negative emotions can be stuff like anger, fear, sadness, hurt, guilt, shame. Those kind of things are all linked to major negative emotions. And those are the type of things that you need to be able to release. Now, interestingly enough, it's not just the imprinting phase. So it can go even further back than that. The root cause of the negative emotions, which is what you really need to get to, can actually be in the womb. So you can actually experience different traumatic events in the womb. Take myself, for example. I was an emergency C-section because my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck like twice and looped through. So I was actually dying. And luckily they noticed that my mom went for a checkup, and yeah, I was dying. So they had to do an emergency C-section on her. And it can even happen before you're even born. So the core of your negative emotions, like the key to being able to get rid of the negative emotions, is to being able to get to where it first starts, and then it branches out from there. Now, your key, maybe it's in the imprinting stage of, like 0 through 7, maybe it's in the womb, or maybe it's actually in a past life or passed down genealogically. So depending on your belief system, you may or may not believe in a past life. In that case, you would want to do genealogical work. Now, everyone, no matter what their belief system, should believe in things being able to be passed down genealogically. For one, your DNA is, and for two, they've actually proven that memory can be transferred from one generation to the next in rats. So they did this study where they put a certain smell in the rat's container, and they also shocked the rats at the same time. So when they were putting the smell and they were shocking, the rats were able to, they started to associate that smell with the shock. And so then what they would do is they would actually do the smell without the shock, and they would have the same reaction. Here's the thing though, so did their kids. So the baby mice, when they had them in the containment, all they would do is they would put that smell in there. But the baby mice were never shocked. They had never gone through, never experienced any of the shocking. But they had the same fear reaction that the parents did. And not only that, but the grandkids also had the same reaction. Didn't matter if they were male or female, it was passed on through both lines. And the kids, never shocked, but they reacted the same way to the smell. Grandkids, never shocked, they reacted the same way to the smell. So it's actually been proven that you can pass on memories from one generation to the next. So in other words, if something traumatic happened to one of your parents or your grandparents, or even back from that, you can actually have to deal with it in this lifetime. Congratulations. And actually, hasn't been scientifically proven, but there are many people in the esoteric community who believe that when you do your work, you are actually healing 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. Now, if you haven't already, you might have already heard this from the first video. If you haven't watched it, after this video, go watch the first video, and we'll basically talk about the concept that time is not linear like we think it is. So even though your kids might not have been born yet, your grandchildren might not have been born yet, 7 generations is definitely not born yet, but you doing your work actually heals them as well. Not only that, but it heals anybody who has come before you. So if one of your parents experienced a traumatic event, by you doing your work and healing yourself, guess what? You've just healed them as well. Now, there are also limiting beliefs and limiting decisions. Now, a limiting belief is atemporal or non-temporal, meaning it's not linked or related to time. So it just is. So a way to think about that is it's how you know you love your parents. You don't have a specific thing or an event or anything like that. You just simply do. You just simply love them, but it's not, you can't link it to any like specific point in time. So a limiting belief sounds something like this: I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable. There's not a specific event that you can link it to. You just feel that maybe you're not good enough. Like, I'm not good enough to get a good job. I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy to be in a good relationship, or I'm not lovable. I'm not skinny enough, and my genetics will never allow me to be the weight that I want me to be. That is like a limiting belief. Limiting decisions are temporal, meaning there's a certain event in time that you can link to when you made that decision. So it's something that happened to you, like some sort of event where you decided, where you made a decision to have this limiting decision. So now that you know about all of this stuff, you're probably like, okay, great, well, what do I do about it? Well, what do I do now? Well, there are many different techniques to release your limiting beliefs, to let go of your baggage, and it kind of depends upon like what your personal belief system is, what is going to work best for you, and it also depends on how much time you're willing to put into it, like how fast you want to be able to release the negative emotions and everything, how fast you're wanting to just say no to your baggage and get rid of it. For a certain group of people, they love to do stuff like plant medicines. So ayahuasca, for example, is something that many people will do, and they have great success releasing their limiting beliefs and their negative emotions and stuff like that. Now, I will put a ton of warnings, like a warning label all over this. If that is the direction that you decide to go, please, please, please know your practitioner. And what I recommend is, asking friends or, friends of friends, finding someone who you know more like on a personal level, or who like someone you trust knows on a personal level, and be able to, go to whatever event is that they went to, assuming that they have a positive experience. But there are a lot of people who are just trying to make money, and sometimes, stuff comes into the United States and people have zero training with this. If you live in a country like, Peru would be awesome, where the medicine originates from, then that's a lot more likely to have someone who knows what they're doing versus someone who's like, hey, I got some stuff, like, you guys want to go, try this, like have this psychedelic experience. And if that's what you're going for, great, but that's not gonna help you with this part of it. So, like I said, some people will choose plant medicines, and if you go that way, please, 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 please know your practitioner. The other part of that is, I've had a lot of, friends and stuff like that come back from having a plant medicine experience, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm a completely different person now. Like I got rid of all this stuff. It was such an amazing experience. And then they crash. They go through this time period of, it's almost like it's worse than before. And a lot of that has to do with they don't have any training on like what to do next. And actually, as a part of this 7-video series, one of the things is like taking action and focus. And with those, if they don't have any kind of coach, if they don't have a therapist to like help them through it, then if you all of a sudden become a different person, but you're still in the same old patterns as before, it's going to create a lot of cognitive dissonance, and it's going to create like a push of, hey, I want to be this other person, but I don't know how. And so, like I said, sometimes it can actually make it worse. So I highly recommend that you work with like a coach or a therapist or somebody who is able to help you through the next stage in becoming you. Another way to do it is called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like the gold standard in psychology. So it's basically going to find a therapist who practices CBT, and that therapist will be able to guide you into what's coming up for you and into being able to help you let go of your baggage. Now, my personal favorite is mental and emotional release therapy. So MER, there was some studies done a while back on comparing CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, to MER, mental and emotional release. And what they found was, like, and CBT is like the gold standard in psychology. So it's most effective out of any psychological techniques. In fact, like it's even more effective than most of your prescription medications. So it's kind of like, if you really want to help somebody heal, it's what you're going to use as a therapist. Now, they started doing studies with, comparing MER to CBT. And what they actually found is the clients who experienced MER, so the patients that went through that form of treatment, they actually not only, they healed faster, so they were able to get over everything faster. And not only that, but there was less reoccurrences. So what happens sometimes with CBT is, after months, sometimes years of therapy, you'll be able to let go of everything. And then sometimes there's a relapse. So sometimes there's, something that happens and you have to come back in for more treatment. What happens with MER is that they've been statistically able to prove that not only do you actually go through getting rid of your baggage faster, not only do you go through the healing faster, but there's also less occurrences of a relapse. And when I say less, I mean almost none. So it's extremely effective. And to add on to that, you can also, in either case, work with a coach as well to help guide you through the other keys that I'll be talking about, like the taking action and staying focused and stuff like that. So those are the different ways you can, get rid of your baggage and be able to release it and to let it go. If you're interested in any of those topics, for some of them, I'll put in the links below. I am not familiar enough with all of them to put a ton of links, but I'll put as many as I am familiar with in the description below. All right, so that is your second key to being able to go ahead and become a master manifester and be ready in the higher vibration to move to the new earth. Come back next week. I'll have the third video ready for you to go for you. And if you've watched this, if you're watching this later, the link will be in the description below. All right, and as always, choose love. Mahalo. So eliminating